She thought she could out-talk me. She was wrong. And what makes it even crazier is that she walked into that moment thinking volume was power, confusion was dominance, and performance could overpower the truth. But here's what she never understood. I don't get loud for attention, I get precise for impact. The room didn't go silent because I demanded it. The room went silent because facts walked in before I even opened my mouth. And when reality walks in, fantasy doesn't stand a chance. People think moments like that are staged, planned, rehearsed. They think there's a script somewhere with every word already highlighted in yellow. They think I'm waiting for my turn to go viral. But what they don't see is the weight behind every breath, the years behind every sentence, the discipline behind every pause. In that moment, I wasn't trying to win a debate. I was correcting a lie that was about to become someone else's truth. And that's dangerous. Because when lies get repeated long enough, they start sounding like policy instead of fiction. That's when I knew I wasn't just talking to her. I was talking to everyone who didn't yet realize how close fiction had gotten to power. And if you think that's dramatic, wait until you hear what she said before I even stepped in. She came armed with words that sounded confident but collapsed the second they were touched by reality. Misinformation wrapped in conviction. Half-truths wearing a superhero cape. Statements designed to trigger instead of educate. The kind of stuff that gets shared, reposted, and screamed into echo chambers where no one bothers to check the source. And she didn't think anyone in that room would stand up and pull the receipt out in real time. She didn't think someone who actually studied the law, lived the consequences, and carried the Constitution in her bones would be sitting there, watching, listening, calculating. But I was. And I wasn't mad. I was fascinated. Fascinated by how confident someone can be while being so disconnected from reality. And maybe that's what shocked the room the most. Not the tone, not the stance, not even the words. It was the calm. Because calm in a storm of foolishness is terrifying, especially if you're the storm. And just when she thought she had the floor, I leaned forward, and everything changed. Now let me tell you something nobody in that room could see, but everybody in that room could feel. When you are rooted in truth, you don't rush it. You let it stretch its legs. You let it clear its throat. You let it step into the light and introduce itself. So I didn't interrupt her. I let her keep going. Every extra second, another brick in the case against her own argument. Every exaggerated word, another opportunity to expose the gap between the claim and the Constitution. And while she was talking, my mind wasn't racing. It was steady, like a judge waiting for the right moment to speak. Because timing matters. Timing is what separates emotion from impact. And when I finally opened my mouth, it wasn't explosive. It was surgical, straight line, no decoration, no drama, just truth, placed exactly where a lie couldn't hide from it. That's when the room shifted. You could feel it, even through a screen. That collective realization, oh, she's not playing. And even she felt it. That microsecond of confusion, that flash of uncertainty, that realization that the person she thought she could bulldoze was actually holding the blueprint. And if that wasn't stunning enough, wait until you hear what I pulled out next. Because I didn't just counter a point. I took the very framework she was standing on and tested its strength. And guess what? It cracked. I referenced the law, not as an opinion, but as a fact. I didn't believe anything. I stated it. I didn't ask. I clarified. I didn't debate. I corrected. And when someone is used to arguing with feelings instead of facts, facts hit like cold water. You can see the temperature change in the room. Body language shifts, page turns slower, cameras adjust, whispered conversations stop. In that moment, she wasn't facing me as a person. She was facing the consequences of what happens when you talk louder than you study. And people watching, they weren't rooting for drama anymore. They were watching accountability in real time. And that's when it hit them. This was never about a clash of personalities. This was about truth versus fantasy, law versus illusion, facts versus fear. And nobody expected the truth to be delivered this calmly, this cleanly, this undeniably. And if you thought that was the peak, it was just the opening act. Because then came the part where history stepped into the conversation. Her words weren't just wrong in the present, they were wrong across time. And I reminded everyone of that. Not by insulting her, not by mocking her, not by raising my voice. I did worse. I compared her words to records, votes, statements, and clear documented proof. Her own past walking back into the room uninvited. And when your history testifies against you, it's not personal. It's factual. It's public. It's unavoidable. That's when I saw it in her eyes. The realization that this wasn't about political theater anymore. This was evidence, receipts, timeline, cause and effect. And the crowd? The crowd didn't need to cheer. Silence was enough. Silence is louder than applause when the truth lands heavy. And people at home weren't just watching a viral moment. They were witnessing what happens when someone stops performing and starts processing. And the scariest part? I was just warming up. Because my next words didn't just respond to her. They spoke over every misinformation campaign she had ever stood behind. It addressed every distorted narrative that had been allowed to survive because nobody bothered to challenge it out loud. And I didn't say it for revenge. I said it so that the truth would exist on record, so that someone watching years from now couldn't say nobody stood up, nobody said anything, nobody pushed back. I wanted history to remember that in that moment, truth was not absent. And the twist? I wasn't doing it for the cameras. I wasn't doing it for a headline. I was doing it for the people who would never have a microphone in a room like that. The people who deserved clarity instead of chaos. That's when it became something deeper, something bigger than both of us. And you could feel it change, like the atmosphere shifted, like the conversation grew roots. And I knew then, she wasn't my audience anymore. You were. And here's the part nobody talks about. After the moment passed, after the cameras cut, after the clips went viral, after the comments filled with fire and applause and outrage and memes and edits and headlines, the truth still stood exactly where I left it. Calm, unmoving, undeniable. And that's the real power. Not the trending hashtag, not the viral clip. The fact that no one could dispute what had been placed on record. No spin could twist it enough. No volume could drown it out. No insult could erase it. And she knew that. That kind of loss isn't loud. It's quiet. It follows you. It reminds you of the moment your confidence outran your competence. And that moment doesn't fade. It replays over and over. And the people who see it don't forget either. Because in a world full of chaos, clarity feels like hope. And that terrified the fantasy more than anything else. You see, power doesn't look like shouting. Power looks like understanding exactly where the truth lives and inviting the world to step inside it with you. And when you do that, those who live in fear, conspiracy, and contradictions have nowhere to stand. Their stage collapses beneath them. Their script dissolves. And suddenly, all they have left is noise. And noise without belief is just echo. That's what happened in that room. An echo fading into silence. But the truth is still speaking, still circulating, still educating, still waking people up. So when you watch that moment again, don't just look at the faces. Look at what it represents. The point where facts refuse to be bullied by fantasy. The point where law refused to be bent by noise. The point where truth reminded everyone it still has a seat at the table. And the wildest part? Nadie lo esperaba. And yet, la verdad sale a la luz. Every time. And if that moment made you uncomfortable, good. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. Reality doesn't arrive wrapped in ease. Sometimes the most powerful education comes in a moment of tension, a moment of confrontation, a moment where the lie is finally put on trial. That's the moment you saw. Not humiliation, not entertainment, accountability. And accountability always feels loud to those who've never had to face it. But to me, it was just Tuesday. Just another reminder that I don't need to raise my voice to raise the standard. I just show up at the truth and let it do what it always does. And if you thought that was the end of it, trust me, that moment is just the beginning. The ripple hasn't even finished moving through the water yet.